Okay, students, this is really the last SPSS video for this subject. I want to demonstrate um, multiple regression, and here we see a data file LSN2. And what do we want to do? Now, first of all, if we look at the variables, age, education father, education mother, occupational prestige father, we want to predict or elaborate on or clarify the occupational prestige of a certain person. And we want to use these other factors, for instance, let's say the level of education and the level of education of your father, as variables that can explain or help predict this. So how do we do this? We go to analyze, regression, linear. All our regression is linear until now. What do we want to explain? The occupational prestige by age, education of the father, education of the mother, and the occupational prestige of your father. Do we want other stuff? No. I think this is, we want to do it quite simple. So if we press on OK, we get our linear regression output. First of all, how to interpret this? Can we say, is our model very strong? And this first statistic, R square, tells us something. This 0.422, we can verbalize this to, let's say a little over 42% of the variances in Y, in the predictions, is explained by those independent variables. If we go further, then we see our ANOVA table. And what does this ANOVA table tell us? Now, in the most general sense, we can say this F test, this F of 442 and somewhat, is significant with 95%, or even more, with 99%. So more in a sense, what can we say? The model as a whole predicts. So this thing tells us the model as a whole predicts. The multiple regression line we stated and calculated predicts. If we look at those coefficients, what is then the whole idea? If we look at the coefficients, then we can say, yes, I already know the model as a whole predicts, but does each individual independent variable predict? Now, the constant, the constant is not of interest for us, but let's say age. Yes, with 95% it predicts quite well. Education also. The education of the father also. The education of the mother doesn't predict that very, not with 95% certainty. And the occupational prestige of the father doesn't predict, or does predict, I'm sorry. So if we look at all those individual coefficients, only the educational level of the mother is not a very good predictor for the occupational prestige of a certain person. This is how you should read those SPSS linear regression outputs. So first we are stating that the model explains, and let's say with 42%, and we say the model as a whole with 95% predicts. So this is the significance. And then we look at all those individual t-tests for each independent variable, and then we see that one of those independent variables can be 0, because this is what it means. If the significance is not below this 0.05, then we can say that it is not certain that this thing here is not 0. It can be 0. Yes? Okay. This multiple linear regression is not that hard to do in SPSS. Maybe the calculations are what more difficult, but more in the sense, this is what I wanted to show you. Thank you for your attention. A lot of luck on the exam.